But if there is a favorite to finish in the top two, it would be 27-year-old Josh Davis, triple gold medalist from the 96 Olympics. Most golds, Rowdy, by any American man at those games.
You know, I have seen Josh Davis take a lot of races out very fast, but I've never seen Josh take it out that fast.
And he's still ahead of world record pace at the halfway mark. Davis looks like he's going to win it, and Davis sets an American record. He breaks a 12-year-old mark. What a swim for Davis.
Welcome to the Ultimate Swimmer Podcast. I'm your host, three-time Olympic gold medalist and captain of the 2000 USA team, Josh Davis. Here at Ultimate Swimmer, we hope to inform, inspire, and encourage you to be the very best version of you, physically, mentally, and spiritually, on your swimming journey. This podcast is geared primarily for those of us in the aquatic disciplines of age group swimming, college swimming, para swimming, open water swimming, and master swimming. But we welcome all who are interested in peak performance, pursuing excellence, and swimming with purpose. So whether you are just starting out in the pool or you've been swimming your entire life, you were born for the water, and you were also born for greatness. So each week we will explore the 7 core habits of achieving greatness that will help take you to the next level in your journey to becoming an ultimate swimmer. This episode is brought to you by Breakout Swim Clinics, the longest-running swim clinic tour of swimming Olympians in U.S. history. Breakout Swim Clinics has been providing swim clubs with the biggest Olympic names for the best prices with gold medal service since 1997. Go to breakoutswimclinic.com and bring some of their great Olympians to your team to help your swimmers break out. Bigger names, better prices, gold medal service. Break out with the best. breakoutswimclinic.com.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another Ultimate Swimmer Podcast show. I'm your host, Josh Davis, and I am very excited about this week's guest. He was the head trainer and physio for the Michigan swimming and diving team and the famous Michael Phelps for their historic run from 2004 to 2008 when they made history. He was the head trainer and physio for the North Baltimore Aquatic Club from 2009 to 2016, where Michael Phelps and the gang did a lot of great things as well. And his official title is now Director of Sports Medicine and Science for USA Swimming from 2016 to the present. But basically, he's the top strength and rehab consultant for the greatest team of ultimate swimmers on the planet, the USA national team. Please welcome to the show, Keenan Robinson. Way to go, Keenan. Glad you're on the show with us.
Hey, thanks, Josh. That sounded more like a eulogy, man. I don't know where you dug up some of those facts. We're going to have to fact check you on some of that.
Well, you've been a part of some great teams. You've been around some great coaches. You've helped guide some ultimate swimmers, some amazing swimmers over the years. You were there at Michigan for a long time, at North Baltimore for a long time, now in Colorado Springs for a while. And, the coaches you've been around is legendary. The swimmers you've helped guide is unbelievable. You've got a ton of stories, a lot of which we can't share, but you've seen people at their worst and you've seen people at their best, and you've helped them come out of these valleys to the mountaintops. And so I'm excited that you could share some of your stories, things you've gleaned and learned from what made these swimmers great, what makes a great coach, a great trainer. So I'm just real excited to get to talk to you. You've been one of my favorites for many, many years. And just because I just feel like we have a kindred spirit on deck we want the kids to be great and we want to help each other. And that's what an ultimate swimmer does. They work hard, they have fun, and they help others. And you've had that spirit on deck, for 15 years now. And I just love being around you, and I'm glad the listeners get to know you a little bit more too.
Yeah, I'd echo that, man. It's great. Like, we are kindred spirits. I think regardless of sport, regardless of profession, that's why we have, we used to call them internships, right? We used to call them mentors, but people that have been around the game, and swimming is a game, but the profession is a game. People that have been around, I just gravitate to excellence. And so, our first experience was kind of maybe similar. It might've been 17 years ago to the date. It was a cold February in Ann Arbor. Exotic, balmy February in Ann Arbor. You high school kids, Ann Arbor is beautiful in February, but you were on deck. I think you were probably doing something with the Fellowship of Christian Athletes or something of similar nature. And Jim Richardson introduced us, and we just hit it off. And I think it was just talking about how to be a better human being, what I was learning from the sport of swimming, because it was my first year, so I didn't know a ton.
That's right.
And then you walk away, so it's just a good human-to-human interaction, and then you walk away, and people say, hey, did he show you his medal? And I say, well, I don't know what medal. Like, does he have St. Sebastian because he's an athlete? Does he have the patron saint? What is it? They're like, no, he was a gold medalist. And I was like, oh, that's cool, right? Like, that's a byproduct of being someone that gravitates towards excellence. And so you're right. I've been very blessed to be part of, quite frankly, in my opinion, it's not debatable, 3 of the greatest entities, or we'll call it a tree of swimming. Right now, I'm part of the greatest team, Team USA. It's headed by just a phenomenal group of executives now. Tim Hinchy being one of them, Mike Unger and Lindsay Mentenko, and everybody else that works in the executive part of the organization. Then from a university setting, they don't call us the leaders and best for no reason, right? You walk in there, the first time you walk into the Cathedral of Swimming Canem Natatorium, you see it on the door, right? It's not every 4 years, it's every day. And then you just see caps upon caps upon caps of just excellence repeated, not just one fluke flash in the pan. And then you open it up, and I think it still might be there, but it's a countdown to whatever Olympic Games we're going. And in an objective sport, hey, we know the clock is ticking, but the leaders and best, right? They haven't had an American coach that hasn't coached the greatest American team back up to the top of the tree, Team USA. And then the opportunity to work at North Baltimore Aquatic Club. For those that have never been there, it's actually when ESPN does the 30 for 30 of the greatest athlete, whether in team sport, whether in individual sport, just someone that participated in athleticism. I'm the greatest athlete of all time. You pull up to Meadowbrook. You don't know it's called Meadowbrook because the neon lights are burnt out because they can't. They didn't replace the bulbs. Then you go in and you just got chloramines and bromines kicked up because the ventilation isn't great. But you know what? There's a 50-meter pool, there's a 25-yard pool, and then there's a 25-meter pool. Then outside they have the same setup. Little do you know, it's probably only 49 3/4 meters, because when I first started working, I started asking, like, hey, how come you never broke an American or a world record or a NAG record? How come you didn't dominate this pool, Michael? And he's like, well, because when Murray built it, he didn't measure it, so it's not FINA approved length. But you go on the wall there, right? And it's still the only club to this day running hot that has developed not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but I think it's up to 5 or 6, 18 and under Olympians that would go on to win an individual medal. And so I just knew where I was at. Like, hey, you got to step your game up, Keenan. Whatever you're doing, be great at doing. It's a lot like what we've heard that Tom Brady, you know, like he's GOAT 2, right? But Michael, right. And everything that Michael brings is he brings either you're on the podium or you're off the podium. So like step your game up and keep it moving. So nothing. I've just been, I guess, in the right places at the right time. But what I have learned pretty quickly is take your approach to be part of the greatness, because you'll get weeded out pretty quickly.
Ah, that's so good. And you've got a ton of stories, and I know we're going to dive into a few of those. But this is my new nickname for you, called Sweet Glue, because sometimes a great strength trainer and a great physio is the glue that helps keep the team together, and you know, the strength and the commitment, strengthen their core strength, strengthen their character, holds the team together. You can get feedback and some intel from the swimmers that sometimes a head coach, even an assistant coach, doesn't get, because you get, you know, when you're in the weight room and doing the warm-ups and the warm-downs and the dry lands, you get to talk. When you're in the pool, you can't always talk, but you actually can get access to them and talk about certain things that sometimes even the swim coaches can't talk to them about. So you kind of hold the team together that way, and your positive disposition keeps those swimmers coming back. It's that sweetness of spirit that keeps them coming back. I got to imagine there's a lot of mornings that Michael Phelps and some of those national team members, they didn't want to get up and go to the pool, but I bet they thought Keenan's going to be there. He's going to have a great quote. He's going to have a smile on his face. He's going to have a great something for us to do. I'm going to go ahead and go. I bet that happened 1,000 times at North Baltimore in Michigan, buddy.
Well,
I know it did.
I wish it happened, and I think Bob would echo it. John, Eric Posgay, all the wonderful coaches I've worked with. I think they wish it would have worked 1,001 times, because sometimes, you know, it just happens.
Yeah.
Alarms don't go off. We set it for PM, not AM. My dog ate my cell phone. Whatever the excuse is, right? So, but I'll tell you what, Josh, it's a good lesson to be learned, right? Because you got to listen to your athletes. And no human is perfect, right? And so we're going to make those errors of but they may have not known that they were making that decision not to come in for that morning for one reason or another. But there's a story behind it, right? Yeah. And the longer you're in this game, the story is a little bit more than what it is at the surface level. And so whether you're talking about recovery or restoration, or whether you're talking about seasonal planning, or you're talking about injury, or you're talking about just mental disposition, mental health, whatever you want to call it, cognitive performance, there's something to glean out of it. And probably I would have had more people show up in 2004, 2005. I mean, I'm always learning and adapting, but the younger Keenan should have been fired. Like I looked back and I said, man, if I would have known this when I know now, I could have done better for the athletes. But I guess that's why I'm a perpetual learner, and I seek it. Like I said, I seek greatness. That's
good. Well, every time I've seen you on deck, I call it sweet glue. you bring people back for more, and you keep the team together. You make people stronger, and so I appreciate what you do as a strength trainer and a consultant, and just someone people can confide in. And you keep people coming back. So let's get into some nitty gritty. I mean, you've been around some of the greatest coaches: Jim Richardson, John Urbanchek, Bob Bowman. You've seen these athletes at their best and their worst. Let's talk about comebacks. I mean, this is kind of a lot of setbacks, but a setback is just a setup for a comeback. And what are some comeback stories you've seen? Obviously, one of my favorites that maybe you can touch on first while you're thinking of some others is the Michael Phelps 2015 transformation. When he came back for 2015, 2016, he had a renewed focus. And I remember overhearing you talking on deck at the 2015 San Antonio when he made that great comeback at Nationals. Everybody else was off racing. He had to just stick to Nationals, and he threw down the top times in the world and was like, yeah, Michael's back. And you said, you know what? How's he look so good? How's he look so strong in such a short period of time? And you said he's sleeping through the night. He's not going out, drinking and doing stuff that he was doing before. And he's just, the muscles rebuilding. And that's really simple of it. He was just allowing his body to rebuild from the work he was used to. So maybe you could touch on that transformation in 2015, 2016.
Yeah.
Come back.
It's an ongoing transformation, or because we're never a finished product. And I'm glad you asked that. People love to ask, and I get it. Like, they want to ask about Beijing, and they just pick a games, right? Because he dominated them all. But you pick something that Michael has long said, and he continues to say and continues to do, that he wanted to change the sport of swimming. That can't be debated, right? We always see an uptick in registration at the USA swimming level right after the Olympic Games because of what he's done, right?
The Phelps effect. Yep.
And I think what Michael did there is not only did he change the sport of swimming, but he changed the face of the sport of swimming. He changed himself. And so we can talk about, and if I can plug something, every swimmer, anybody that likes swimming or wants to understand how greats are great, or the greatest is the greatest, listen to Tim Ferriss's podcast with Hackey and Michael. I mean, to get a globally, I think, hundreds of thousands of listeners each week, to get two swimmers on, you listen to that 2 hours and you'll change the way you approach swimming. But what I'd like to say is, Michael's transformation was a transformation of this is where I was, but this is where I need to go. And so, yeah, he cleaned up his nutrition, whatever. Like, he never really needed help on. I mean, he's not stupid, like you and I were talking about. If it grew on a tree or came from the ground, if it made a noise, you could kill it and throw it on a grill. It's probably good for you. If it came from a factory, not that good for you, Yeah. And then it's just timing, quality, quantity. So, like, he always had that pretty locked down. But the components that went into sleep, right? The components that went into biology, physiology, muscular regrowth, like Michael has talked about, like maybe he missed some steps sometimes in his previous kind of lead up, but who he is as a person, like, yeah, he went to San Antonio, and like there was the things that made Michael great have always made Michael great, never trained, right? It was hot. It was humid. He was not swimming against the best competition. Didn't matter. It was 50 meters. Someone started him. There was wall touch pads at both ends, and he just took care of it and put up 3 World 1 ranking times and his best breaststroke time of all time.
That's right.
And the only reason why he did that is because Chase went a time better that would have been the North Baltimore Aquatic Club 18 and under best time. So he was just like, that can't happen. So that's why he did it, right? So like the peripheral stuff never phased. Like, okay, like apparently it's not a highly competitive field, but those people got 2 legs, 2 arms. They can swim, they shave. So can I. Like, I just need to be the best, right? So like that stuff never changed. But the way he approached it, he was so much more engaging with other swimmers, engaging with the fans, and engaging with his own teammates. Because remember, Michael went there. It was Mike. I think we had 3 guys, maybe 4, and we had 3 women. And we won it. I mean, great. People were like, we had Michael. Well, like lots of teams had great people on their team. But they won him. Yeah. He won like the team title, but he was engaging. I mean, Sierra Schmidt had just gotten back from Pan American Games, 800 women's freestyle, gold medal, still the Pan American record holder, right? But he was like, hey, these are the things you can do to work on your 400 IM, your 400 freestyle, your 200 freestyle. Schmitty had just gotten back from Pan American Games. She was on both relays, gold medals, 200 freestyle, gold medal. But she was still transitioning through a lot of her like struggles as like it was a shaky quad. And it's like, how do you get on pace? And then you have guys like Drew Kazagaria, Austin Surhoff, and I think David Nolan had just started kind of training with us. Frank Dyer. There was a couple other people, but Michael was more engaging with them. Where usually at meets, and rightfully so. Like, great ones kind of have to take care of their business, especially at international games because they're the target. Absolutely. But him talking about starts and turns and everything about it, and then just club coaches, college coaches coming up and just everybody wants to know, like, how did this happen? Like, you were literally in rehab all fall, all January, and you've had, like, everybody had their shot. Like, Michael is down. Like, literally, he is locked away. He's down. Right. And so all these, like, speculations of, like, how he swam and trained incorrectly could have been proven. But instead, he was just like, oh, no one else wants to go under 156 in the 200 fly. Here, I'll take a carrot. Keep it going, right? Yeah. And it's just like, so they want to know, how did that happen? And Michael was just way more transparent with that. And then you just talk about what he's done in his his personal life, and like that's when Nicole, like, just one of the strongest women we know, strongest human beings we know, right? Like if you haven't watched the Today Show that they were on a couple Fridays ago, just watch it. And that was the birth of him becoming a like the GOAT husband, and then eventually the GOAT father that he would become what he is to now. So we could talk about the training sets. I think Bob and I mean, I know I said this. I was talking to his agent, Peter Carlisle, and his spokesperson, Drew Johnson, the night before San Antonio started. And they're like, well, how's he going to be? And I said, well, if I was a Middle European, or I don't want to go down the Russian route because there's some other stuff that's involved with that. But if I was a Middle European scientist, I would say the test sets, all the numbers, all the stuff that we've taken would indicate he's going to swim well, but he hasn't been on a block. And his pro swim series performances haven't really been phenomenal, right? Yeah. But I was like, hey, if he's still Mike and these numbers are right, okay, keep running your mouth, Chad. See what happens, So and then he took care of the rest. So basically, a lot of it's saying like, I don't want to undersell like what Michael brought to the table, brought to the world of swimming. Both figuratively and literally, like what he brought to like the massage table. I'm like, there's a right way and a wrong way, right? But what he brought to the table in terms of, hey, like, we're not finished products. Like, here, why are we here? Where are we going? How do we get there? Like Michael had that map, and when he talked, he's still 4 years after retirement, he's still changing the sport. He's still advocating for mental health. Still, I mean, when you listen to that podcast, still advocating for consistent hard training, still advocating for having a plan. Like, still advocating for, hey, work still works. John Urbanchek didn't luck into 936 straight years of having swimming success from the 50-meter freestyle all the way up to the 10K. Like, his manual works, right? Like, so, just really encouraging those things. Like, hey, like, it can be tweaked, it can be tuned, but like the Shelby Mustang from 1960, it's just got a different exterior, maybe a little bit different engine components, but it's still a Shelby Mustang, still the best car, fastest car, right? So that's right. Hopefully that makes a little bit of sense to you.
I love that. Well, Michael and I were on the team together in 2000. We were in the same group because I was 200 free, he was 200 fly. I was the oldest guy at 28. He was the youngest guy at 15. And I thought, man, this little kid's pretty tough. If he sticks around, he might do something. And of course, he stuck around, became the greatest of all time. But to see, 2004, he was pretty focused. 2008, unbelievable focus to get the 8 gold. 2012, had its ups and downs. But I love 2016 because, like you said, it's like he finally got the big picture of how to perform in the pool, but how to take care of others around him and the powerful impact he can have on others and building others up and, just checking in on others. And of course, that's the one where he got elected captain of all 5 Olympics. That's the one where he got elected captain. And I wonder if that's the one where, in a way, he had the most fun because he was, giving back and he was, a full-orbed, multidimensional swimmer on that games.
Well, I think, I would say you'd have to ask him, right? I don't speak for him. I'm not a spokesperson, but I'm still in consistent, constant communication with Mike. And one thing that I observed from the external side of it was it was the first camp, right? And you get this, and anybody that's been on the Olympic team gets this. The camp creates itself. The personnel, in my opinion, the personalities, it can't be created by us as an organization at USA Swimming, who now, I'm an employee of. It can't necessarily be, it can't be, like, you think Eddie created those, like, the Call Me Maybe song idea? That didn't come from Eddie Reese, right? Like, it comes from the personalities that grow, and you just have to sit back and let the personalities grow. And I think it was the first time in his life where Michael, not let his guard, but he knew that this was it. Like, there was no comeback, although he could, I think. Maybe
after watching Tom Brady, he could.
Yeah. But maybe it was just like, hey, I've done these camps. I've been on 7,552 international teams. This is like what the legacy I want to leave to be is. Michael, his reaction after the famous 4x1, like, he's had the reactions behind the blocks or in the water, but like the embracing of Ryan Held, like that goes down, like, people don't know, like, that Michael never probably would have done that in the first 4 Olympic Games, right? But him embracing that, and what you saw behind the scenes, where he, if he saw great, you made the Olympic team, you're great, the U.S. Olympic team, not one of these other, like, you made the, and so he would see people like, you need to do this kick set. You don't need to do this kick set for Rio, but you need to do this kick set because, like, if you want to keep this thing going, your career, your greatness going, you need to learn how to do this. The way he carried the flag, like, he walked with Team USA, not out in front, right? Because he is part of the country, and that's so many. I think there's stories, there's misconceptions that, like, Mike lived in a hotel by himself, like he wasn't in the village, and Mike had 10 chefs, and Mike had this, and Mike was in there, his roommates, right? Whether it was PVK, whether it was Supervent, whether, I think Connor Dwyer maybe in 2012, and then, it was him and I don't know who, like, whatever. I don't go in there, but like, he was one of the boys.
Oh, yeah, he's ready.
Like, go into the dining hall, whatever they have, like, it's calories. I'm gonna put it in there, right? Like, every now and then he maybe asked, like, hey, any chance I could get this, could get that, but it didn't, like, he was one of the team. And I think he, for so long, observed, like, that's what makes Team USA so great. Like, the struggles, the successes, everything in between, we do as Team USA. And, it models a lot of what I work for now. Like I say, these parallels of every step I've been or every stroke I've been in this swimming world is the one voice that Tim Hinchy is saying. Like, we come at this as an organization of one voice, and we move forward. And that's what Michael was like. You're part of the Team USA. Like, to wear that cap, you got it, Josh. Like, I've never worn the cap, so I should stop saying the story now. But to do that is something special, and to know the difference between the black and the white cap, it's something special and unique to the fraternity of you guys. That I think maybe that's what he wanted to bestow upon this younger, because it was a younger Olympic team, right? A lot of Olympians. I mean, look at that first relay, right? Which has never been easy on the international stage for the United States, right? Whether it was the South Africans in 2004. Michael wasn't on that relay, right? But he was on the morning one, but right, like, and they're coming. And obviously 2008, everybody knows, right? What a great.
Yeah.
I mean, so many layers. And then Yannick and the French coming after us in 2012. And so here we are in 2016. We almost didn't qualify for the Olympic Games because of our 2015 World Championship performance, right? I mean, this is your word. So don't when we talk 200s and above, I got my facts a little bit more straight. But, right? And then we go into finals, and we got a guy who, unless you were really invested in the swimming world, didn't really know that Ryan Held belonged there. I mean, he had come from the surging program of just unbelievable dynamics. I mean, every coach on deck on that crew was dynamically special. Now they're leading, I think, somewhere around 4 different NC2A institutions now, right? But you were immersed in the world and saw the trajectory of Ryan. NBC and everybody sitting at home was like, we got a guy from NC State on this relay? And not Colin Jones, NC State. We are dead in the water. And then we got this guy from Florida. He probably can't even swim 100 freestyle because they only do 85 100s every day. And then for their sprint workout, they do 6 400 IM. So there's no way, and then, I mean, we had the old vet Nathan on it, and then there was this guy, Michael, who hasn't competed on the international stage. And just you have to, I have to believe that it's like when you're in the fourth quarter, last 3 minutes, and LeBron's in the huddle, right? Or any sport analogy you want to, hey, we're going out there with Mike. I'm at least give us a shot, and that wall that he had was hey, I don't care how the rest of the country prepared, USA is ready to go. And I just think that's the power of Mike.
And he had one of his lifetime best splits on that relay as well. He did his job great, and that gave so much confidence to the rest of the relay. They did a super job.
Yeah, I mean, you have to do the facts. You do the fact checks on me, but it's I just feel like it's an underrated relay. I don't know if we've ever had 2 first-time Olympians, one's first ever international games on the Olympic finals in a 4x1 in a relay that we're not typically dominant in. Right? Different story for the 4x2. The Athens one when you had Peter on it and Ryan, different story, different scenario. The paths to get to that foursome pretty similar, right? A men's 4x2 freestyle relay in the last 8 Olympics has always had someone from Eddie Reese's squad on it, right? In the last X amount of years, someone with John Urbanchek's seasoning has been on it. Yep. Michael and Bob have obviously been on it. To get there was a lot different, but that 4x1 in Rio was just something special. And think of how it catapulted that group, what Ryan Hell's doing now and what Caleb Dressel is doing now and Blake Peroni's doing now, where you swam the 200 down to the 100, Zach Apple. Yeah. These guys are going to be big players, household names. Whenever this summer, they're going to be household names because they were hey, I don't know. If the greatest of all time is doing it, then maybe I should probably start doing some of that stuff too,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's cool. I appreciate you sharing some of what you saw from your perspective of Michael's career, because it is significant. You were firsthand helping, guiding all that. So I appreciate that.
It up. That's the best way to determine it. Not screwing it up. Just staying out of the way. Letting Bob and Mike do their magic. Actually, it's not magic. Letting Bob and Mike do their plan.
No, it's a plan. They work their plan, and they plan their work and work their plan. They're real. Bob's a genius at that and consistent at that.
I wanted to take a moment from this fascinating interview to let you know about a new partner for the Ultimate Swimmer podcast, and that is SwimShare. SwimShare is a free workout riding tool. Just Google SwimShare, all one word, SwimShare. And you can put in today's workout in just a few clicks, and it sends and stores all your workouts within seconds. The first workout you'll see on there is one of my favorites from yours truly. Check out SwimShare and take your workouts to the next level. Send, store, and share your swimming masterpieces with SwimShare.
So real quick, what has been the biggest setback or injury that you've seen in your career that swimmers deal with?
Geez, that's
is it a shoulder? I'm guessing it's a shoulder thing, or do you put mental setbacks up there with shoulder setbacks?
I'm trying to think to say how this best can be described. I think the biggest setback happens when how do I say this best? Let me see if I can get to the answer, if I can work through my thought process here, Josh. So when I first started at Michigan, 2004, September, never had worked swimming, knew nothing about the sport, knew nothing about people that were in the clinic. And I've told the story before, but there was 5 to 7 people in the sports medicine clinic the day one that were hurt. And I remember thinking to myself, this must be the worst swim program in all of the United States. Like, if we haven't even had a practice and they're already hurt.
Right.
We had 3 shoulders, 2 of which were post-op, 1 which would be getting operated. One guy that was in this back brace that was told he could only ride a bike for the next 2 months. A super high ankle sprain, which we're in swimming, how does that happen? You realize, everybody just got back on college campus. He probably did it walking it's Michigan. So he was walking from one high academic building to the other, more than likely, if I had to bet. And then another guy that had lacerated his hand, probably because he was typing too fast, high academic scholar, right? Or something happened in the Olympic Village. One of the two, but I think it was the typing of the computer. But you go through the names, and it's Dan Ketchum. Oh, morning 4x2, gold medal relay.
Yeah.
Tom Malchow, still second all time in American history of guys that have gone under 156 in most frequency.
Right.
And he's taken a stroke since 2004. The guy with the back brace, Michael, high ankle sprain, Davis Tarwater. The guy that lacerated his hand, your swim fans will know, but Andrew Hurd from Canada, he had just gotten back from being part of the Canadian delegation. And so what I'm saying there is, there has to be something different. These guys, girls, these human beings, these athletes, they know what it takes. They want to be great. It's not like if you tell them to do something, they won't do it when it comes to rehab or strength. But then the onus is on me to know what's best. And so what that segues into now is really where we've gotten USA Swimming through the leadership, through Tim, Mike, and Lindsay, is just really empower the organization to go out and seek those people. For how many years did we have the team orthopedic surgeon for the New York Football Giants traveling with us? Let's pick his brain. How do you keep people resilient? How do you keep people healthy? When it comes to sports cardiology, the story, it's on SwimSwam, so it's not a HIPAA violation. But Clark Smith's story of his troubles with how do we find the Clark Smith, one of the best ever in sports cardiology, and bring him on the team? When it comes to breathing disorders, right? Athletes, Rocket DeMont's story of testing positive because no one did their paperwork for him. And it was 1984, probably 88. Rocket's a young strong chick. But how do we find the best pulmonologists? How do we find the best people that are willing to work to collaborate to keep these athletes' dreams going? And sometimes we have really complicated cases. Shoulder's pretty easy to manage right now, but it takes a plan. And it takes collaboration with multiple layers of everybody, right? You might have a shoulder injury, and although the head coach, he's going to want to know it, but the head coach may be more inclined to coach lower end, middle distance, and sprinters, and this is a distance swimmer, or vice versa. You have to bring everybody in. And so it's I think, to get to your point, it's not a shoulder, it's not a hip, it's not a low back, it's not asthma versus allergy. It's not a sports cardiology. It's not a concussion. I can't target one. It's the worst thing that sets back is just not having the right pieces. It's like doing a kick set, but you don't have a kickboard, or doing a pull set and you can't use your paddles. You're kind of already behind the game if you don't have the best people. And so really trying to branch out, and we can't be everywhere, because it's the greatest thing about Team USA is we've got theoretically people in all 50 states that could represent us on the Olympic team. And how do we find someone in the best area that can help and collaborate, right? Everything is, everything's not a hammer, everything's right. Just great team unification and really providing that education and working our way down, right? No training plan is gospel, and no training plan is rubbish, right? What works for some, if you have the right athlete of the right mindset and the right coach, this is what they're going to do. And so if they're continuing to have what looks to be overtraining symptoms, don't throw the training program out, because 10 and a half months out of the year, That's a damn good program, right? But there's things that go off the track. Like, well, then how do we equip them with education so that we go back and we look through the training log and say, hey, if you're going to go pedal to the metal every day, like just stay in, the Dave Salo gears, like just stay in third gear. Like, because if you continue going to fourth and fifth, you're going to burn out your clutch, right? Or if you're Dr. Josh White running the greatest distance group there is going right now, and you're a rowboat, like just make sure that when they dock the boats, you polish that row really, really nice for them and keep them going. So it's not one pathology or one anatomical part. It's a better understanding of how do we allow kids become adults to reach their dreams.
That's good. And you mentioned mindset. I mean, your specialty is physio recovery, but so much of peak performance is mental. And so what have you found helpful to building people up mentally? And, maybe you can touch on that, how important the mental side is just as the physical.
Yeah, obviously it's something that, and it's not just riding the coattails of Michael, why it's so passionate is because two people that I care about and more that I've seen in the sport time and time again. And if I had to look back, like I said, in 2004 to 2008 quad, greatest swimming group ever assembled, cannot be debated. I hate we can get in this debate about your long groups, but I mean, you look at medal production when Charlie Houchin and Tyler Clary are going second in a lane of 8. Hey, there's some dogs in there, right?
Oh yeah. So Davis, Charlie, Vent, Caitlin, Michael, Peter. I trained with him that one day when I first met you. And
Chris Young, who never made an Olympic team, but he's talk about giving back to the sport. I think he's running the largest swim school nationally because it was just he had such a great passion. He had such a great experience. He's a Michigan man, give back, right? Like, so his impact wasn't necessarily at the Olympic Games, but hey, I'm gonna put my money that there's some kid that learned how to swim at Bluefish that's gonna be an Olympian someday. You had Matt Patton. You had
that's right.
Oh, Scott Spann Jr. Hey, let's not.
Of course.
Try and steal that from us there, Josh. I know you're trying to get that long, but Scott Spann Jr. Just national team after national team, and Haley Pearsall would come up and train in the summertime, and Caitlin Sandino was there. I mean, it was just like if you didn't bring it every day, you were going to get shook, and the cult, I don't want to use the word culture because it's overused in today's day and age, but like the environment, like I said, you walk in the doors, open it up. It's not every 4 years, it's every day. So that means every day is today. And then you're just looking down there and you see Dolan, Namesnick, Brett Lang, just go on and on. And you look at the coaching staff, which is the last kind of, if you've been in there, it's the last thing you see. And you see Gus Steger, Matt Mann, John Urbanchek, Bob Bowman, now Mike Bottom. Like, you open up those doors and it's like, hey, you better be ready to go. You're going to get – everybody likes to talk about the Patriot way. At that point in time, during those 4 years, there was something the Patriot way couldn't match. And that it kind of segues into the mentality of if I had to look back, like, that's not easy, right? So you're an undergraduate student training for the University of Michigan in the same pool as the Great White, right? Like, that's hard. Like, you had this dream of being, first and foremost, a scholar, NC2A athlete at the toughest academic institution to do it at. Then you wanted to be a national team athlete and not just go and get the Team USA swag. Like, you wanted to go to get the medal on. Like, that's how we approached it. And, like, you swim any event during that time, hey, like, I'm a pretty good 100 backstroker. Michael might swim the 100 back. So now I've got one shot at making the Olympic team, right? I mean, people forget, like, if Michael wanted to swim the mile, he would have made it in the mile, right? So probably the only event that was secure at that time was maybe the 50. But Michael probably could have done that right? So just like you think about the socio-academic stress that any student athlete has, but there you're at Michigan, you're at Stanford, you're at UVA, you're at Texas, you're at Florida, you're at Georgia, all these unbelievably difficult academic institutions. And you know that at some point in time, you're going to have to be the best equivalent of 500 freestyler in the business world, in the legal world, whatever it's going to be. And those people don't have to do 2 practices a day in a weight session and a rehab session. And so that wears you down from the mental side of things. And then the cognitive performance, it's just you see end products. Like there's no way that Pete had the confidence that Peter had when he was a freshman at Michigan. He was working out, he was developing it, and he learned from Ketchum, and he learned from Tom Malchow, and he learned from Andy Potts when Andy Potts would come back. He learned from the men of Michigan, just like every little institution has it. And so there's the 2 things. And so I think hey, it shouldn't be a stigma now anymore, right? Like if you need help, you need help, and help it's different, right? It's just like it's health, right? So like that stigma needs to end too. It's not just like this little subspecialty that's different than a shoulder. It is in the sense of like people that manage it go to different medical school, but you need help for it, and there's different approaches. You don't treat the knee the same you treat a lung, same you don't treat a brain, and so. I think there's wonderful opportunities out there. I mean, Michael has, he stood behind Talkspace, and more so than that, he's just said like, get on the phone and find someone that's great. And back to like your question of like what injury limits people, it's not necessarily the injury. It's just like, are great people doing great things? Are they doing their job, and are they doing it well? Right. Yeah. And so if you're sitting on a couch and they're just kind of like, well, how are you feeling? Like, hey, like I feel great when I leave here, but the same issues occur when I get behind the blocks. I'm still not working your way through that. It's finding the very, very best people that can do that. But in today's day and age, these swimmers, super important to watch what Katie Ledecky and Simone Manuel do as their approach to training, as their approach to competition. It's very important to look at like how can Caleb Dressel at the same meet in Des Moines last year, I think he was 157, 200 butterfly the next day, 48 low, keep it moving, how you doing? There's something to that you should learn, but there's also something to it between their ears in terms of like, how do you do this? How do you approach this? And because they all approach it differently. And if you can look through their interviews, you can glean how they do that. So, obviously I'm not a licensed social worker. I'm obviously not a psychiatrist, psychologist, so I can't speak to the way that professionals do. But as a dude that has stood on deck and watched people in training and watched people in competition, as a dude that stood in the weight room and seen how they have approached it, and really how they've approached all of it at one time, right? A morning training session, they go and they lift, you hop on a bus, you travel. I just think of Lily King and Melanie Margalis when they competed this autumn internationally. They landed 3 days later, American record. Olivia Smoliga, like they broke an American record 3 days later. Like there's something to their approach of how they do that. And looked at that, Ray Luce and double Jack Bowerly and Greg Troy. Like those aren't like if I had to put a month's paycheck that they weren't really well rested, as we'd like to say in this sport, I'd probably be okay with that bet. Yeah. So there's a whole mindset and approach, and I think as you're a younger athlete and you're working your way up in the university setting, like that's what you're trying. Like Gary Taylor and I were talking in the month of December. He called it meet etiquette, and that's part of the meet etiquette. That you can't just be an Auburn Tiger, War Dam Eagle, and you're swimming Tuscaloosa Polytechnical Art Institute. And like not expect that your approach needs to be when you're swimming Georgia or Tennessee or one of your other SEC champions, right? Like that's all part of it, and takes a long time. Just like it takes a long time to go. I mean, what's your best time? Like 47.9, probably 100 freestyle.
I was 48 mid. Yeah.
Right. Like you just didn't like. It just didn't happen one day in San Antonio, right? Like it was a process. It started in San Antonio, grew in Austin, and you got some of that Eddie Reese love, right? And it happened. But so just like your training process, your cognitive approach is a whole step in a process.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, speaking of weight room stuff, what is your favorite weight room movement? If you had to pick one or two or three favorite weight room movements for swimmers, what would it be?
Mine, or what I like to program for the athlete?
Yeah, for swimmers, yeah.
Okay. Depends. Right? It depends. And I don't mean to sound political. I don't mean to try and dodge the question, but thankfully, like I've been blessed with a lot of athletes A lot of coaches that have entrusted me with their GPP, their general physical preparation. And just like swimming, programming is not dogmatic. Weight training is not dogmatic. I think what you have to be great is you have to be great at the fundamental movements, push, pull, hinge, vertical pull, horizontal pull, a carry, and have a very strong, ruthless core. And what I mean by that is I want to give it to Eddie or maybe his brother Randy, because they have been talking about this stuff at ASCA clinics since like 1912, right? St. Paul, St. Peter, Eddie, and Randy all presented at ASCA at the same time, right? But they talked about like fingertips to toes back then and having a strong connection point. The same holds true, and it's a strong connection point from both like force output, so like the way your trunk moves, flexion and extension off of the start and off the turns, and even strong rotation and strong flexion and extension, whether it's short or long axis stroke. And then you got to have the endurance, right? That's why we do pull sets and things like that. So those things are the most important. But then I think it really depends, right? Because it depends on two levels. I currently train a female athlete that's pretty good at the swimming and in strokes from the sprints all the way up to the middle distance. And like for me, I think it's super important for both athletes to do some sort of a vertical pull. So whether it's chin-ups, pull-ups, weighted of those variations, and she doesn't want to do them, but she's still very good at the swimming because there's other ways to train that movement pattern. So that's why I think it's more movement pattern based. I would say, and then it depends. Like I haven't just worked with the elite of the elite. Like I've also worked with 10. Like North Baltimore was a small club, less than 200 people, and we had people from 10 all the way up to Mike. So I worked at that level, and I would have to, like I said, like if I had to go back to my 2009, 10, 11 programs that I was giving those age groupers then, I would throw it in the trash and I'd throw me in there with it, just because I've learned more, right? And I've learned more just from listening to them. So you have to get burnt, I guess, to make these to learn these lessons. But it's actually getting the feedback, the comments, and understanding from these kids, because they would go on and they would swim at Stanford. They would swim at. I mean, we never hung the caps of where kids went, but if it was a big time college, we had Hook'ems, right? We had the Surhoff legacy at Hook'em and Patrick Murphy. I don't know if we've ever had a kid go to Florida. Huh. Maybe that's why Bob and Greg, when they would swim their dual meets at Michigan, Greg would always lay it on Bob. No, I don't even actually know. But, but we had, and they would come back and they would say like, hey, we do Olympic lifts down here, Keenan. You did not set us up for success there. Or we do animal flow movements. And I was like, what do you mean animal flow? You just take you down to the local zoo, throw you in there and help you survive? Because that's what some of these college strength coaches do, right? Like it's just like the harder I make, the more they vomit, the more I hurt them, the tougher they'll be. Like that has nothing to do with cognitive toughness, right? Like, right. But they would come back and it's like, okay, well, I need to dig deeper to that. And really what it allowed is connecting points of, picking up the phone, and if they would go to, if they'd go to Georgia and having a phone conversation with Kat Kosh, who's the head of Olympic strength coach. I mean, Georgia, Jack Barlow's program. Oh, yeah. He's doing some great things for a long time. It's like, yeah, your kids come in and they're really, really good at this. And it's like, I don't want to know what I'm really good at. Like, I want to know what I'm terrible at because right. I'm going to get better on it. And like, it's not my program. I don't have a book out there that I'm selling. I don't have like Keenan training philosophy app that you can get on and do. Like, I want to do right by the kids. It's their dream. And don't even like stop there. We have kids that go to Johns Hopkins, UMBC, which is now a swimming hotbed because of Emily Escobedo, right? Like, right. How can we set them up for success? And I think more importantly, like when you've reached out to me and you say, hey, like, here's the scenario, here's the situation we have at my university. We have a strength coach, but he's spread thin, she's spread thin. How can like kids that I would send to those same scenarios, that would go to Columbia or go to Harvard or go to Yale, wherever they would go. But hey, they'd be like, hey, can I just look back on our programs that we did and kind of segment them their way through? And it's like, yeah, now you got more equipment. Now, like you got more time, whatever it's going to be. And so that's why I say it depends. And it's ever evolving. I'll say that. I don't want to make this like some sort of mysterious, but it is ever evolving, right? Like I never would have in a million years. I train now an athlete, a men's athlete who's pretty darn good at the 400 all the way up to the 10K and has been for a long time in the United States. and he's got a female counterpart who's never really dabbled in the 10K, but she's pretty darn good, I think, in every event in the freestyle and the IM. Yeah. But they're more distance, and I would say I would have never had them do any of the overhead Olympic movements because I worry too much about their shoulders. And my good friend and good colleague Matt Delancey and I, we would have meathead debates about it constantly. He said, you just got to coach them better. Okay, you're right. But if I coach them wrong and those shoulders get screwed up, you're just a tougher man than I. You can handle Anthony and Greg better than I could handle, Bob or these two athletes' particular coaches. But one of the things that quarantine gave us is an opportunity to change the stimulus up. And so they didn't have weight equipment, but they did have a Home Depot where they could go out and they could buy a dowel rod. And so I could teach them from the USAW, USA weightlifting manual, how to do the overhead Olympic movements. And now they both can do it. And they both can train at 50 to 65K a week, and there's no shoulder problems. So it just depends. Circumstance and events surrounding it always give you your opportunity. And I'm constantly learning. Usually pre-COVID, when I would go and visit these institutions, it's too often times I could get into this mindset, this role that I can just show up and just they need to hear what they need to hear from me, not I need to learn from them. But it's here's my program for what I'm doing. Audit it. Tell me where I'm wrong. Tell me how I can get better, because it's not my program. I write it, but it's the execution of the athletes that have really entrusted me to do it. I mean, I think of it this way, and it's never I never lost sight of it when I was working in Michigan and North Baltimore. But a couple falls ago, I was down in Athens, Georgia, and I'm just looking around. Right. And it's Georgia. It's Jack Bowerly, the saint. I mean, the kindest human being.
He's the best.
He's awesome. Yeah. And his coaching tree, right? He is the Bill Parcells coaching tree, right? Steve Friedman and Dan Flack and Carol Capitano. I mean, they're all throughout but so I'm there and I'm on deck at Gabrielson, and you're looking at the banners and you're like, damn, it's pretty cool. And then I'm in the weight room, trying not to screw up these, what did Bob call them? American jewels, right? These athletes that we work for, he's like, hey, you got don't be the terrible jeweler, because these are American. Yeah. But you're looking around, you got Livia Smoliga, at the time, Haley Flickinger, Melanie Margalis, Natalie Hines, Nick Fink, Gunny Bunny, Jay Bird Litherland, Chase. Damn, if you don't sit back and take appreciation that these athletes and this coaching staff have enough trust for you to be in there with that program, instead of just being they earn the right to get into my weight room. Well, one, it's not my weight room, right? I was a guest at Georgia. No. But for me, it was I could never lose sight of that it's always an honor and a pleasure. And so you approach it what can I do best for that individual? Don't champion yourself on social media that you're making the best better or going from good to great, when it's your own. You don't take audit and internal information and have tough skin. It's not a matter of if Chase is a very verbal individual, right? Yeah. And he's not attacking you because he doesn't like you. He's one of the kindest human beings he's ever done. Ask my two children, right? They love Chase.
Oh yeah.
He learned from Michael, right? So if you ask him a question, he's going to give you a real ass answer.
Yeah.
And so if he's at me and he's like, why the hell are you having me do bench press when you've trained me since 12 years old to now 20, whatever it is, 26? We've never done bench, but you think you want to do it? It's going to screw up my shoulders. And you know what I got coming tomorrow? It's Jack Bowerly. I've got 32 800s to send 1 to 32 tomorrow. What are you doing? It's not attacking me as a human being. It's just saying hey, are you doing right by me? And when you have skin like that, it's but at the end of the day, cool, we're done with the weight session. We're going out. We're going to go break bread together. All's good. Yeah. And then 6 months later, you see the smile of him and Jay Bird and Jack hugging each other at the Olympic trials, because two guys, not since Namesnick and Dolan has it been done. Two guys, same event, same program, 400 IM, and it's man, that's why we're in it. That's why I do it. I do it for that, not for my own personal endeavors. So I wish I could say squat, bench, deadlift, but that's the three most important for me in my program for Keenan. but it's not the most important for Allison Schmidt or someone else that I program for.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you got to individualize because, as many body types, there's that many programs, as many.
It's maybe that's a better way. It's the 3 layers, right? It's like what's going to be required of their swim program, right? And that's not going to change, right? Like
it very rarely changes.
Eddie's going to do what Eddie's going to do.
Yeah.
Jack's going to do what Jack's going to do. Greg Meehan's going to do what Greg Meehan's going to do. Dave Kelsheimer's going to do. So I'm not going to get there and try and critique them because they were doing it at a world-class level before I even stepped on deck, right? I learned that first and foremost from John and Bob, right? So you got to understand what the swim program is going to be, and you got to understand what it's going to be, not just that night, not just tomorrow, but the whole weekly cycle. And that's where you really learn the game. And then you got to think about, like you said, we talked about injuries and illnesses and mental blocks. I mean, think about it. If it's a collegiate freshman, they've never been under a bar, and you're just this like imposing man or woman in the weight room, and you're barking at them, and there's loud music going on, like all the things that like is wrong with the strength and conditioning profession, right? Like here you are on an academic institution at UVA, at Michigan, at Georgia, at Stanford. The professors across the street aren't blaring music, yelling at people while trying to teach them quantum physics or to cure cancer. I don't understand why we do that in our classroom, but again, that's what Alabama does. Well, that's great. That's what Alabama football does, but it's a different, like that's comparing not even apples to oranges. It's like apples to kale, like fruits and vegetables. Right. Then they're going to have their first bad experience the first time in the weight room, and like they're never going to want to be back there. So they're going to hide on the farthest rack away from you, the farthest rack away from the best lifter, and there's no one wins, And so you have that kind of the injury stuff, and you have to accept it. Like if a kid comes in and I don't know, like they give me any breaststroker's knee, like it just doesn't, like I know it's a thing, but in my world it's not a thing, right? Like God didn't create Josh Davis like you're gonna have a breaststroker knee and Keenan's not gonna have, like he's gonna have a different knee, like it just doesn't happen. But whatever, like it's a thing. It's like, are you going to continue to tell someone that you're trying to say like wants to win a conference title, wants to win an NC2A title, wants to win an international medal, they can't do something? Maybe like you need to like look back and say like, this is where I want to get from a weight room perspective. How do I get there in a logical plan? And then you got to do like equipment and space and time, right? Like I just the NC2A does such a great job. Number one priority, health and well-being of the student athletes, but swimming, they can only go in the weight room at 6 a.m. Like, why? Like, tell me that, how that's like the health and well-being of the student athlete when you're like, this is the only time they can get in there. Like, the end of a week, and they're training, they've done some Braden Holloway, like, unbelievable training. At the end of the week, they're going to be tired and fatigued. I'm probably not going to do something that can break them. Yeah. I'm going to stimulate, not annihilate, right? So I think so maybe that's like the three. It's not 3 lifts, it's 3 kind of thought processes and approaches. And it's the same thing at the club level, right? Like people think, where Michael Phelps trained was this unbelievable, it was like San Antonio. I mean, Josh, I didn't even know there's the Josh Davis Aquatic Center where we were just at 3 weeks. That's right. I mean, there's a 50-meter pool, there's a 25-yard pool, there's probably the Josh Davis hot tub, there's probably the Josh Davis cold tub, and right across this, right across town is where 2015 San Antonio was. Right. Baltimore, like I said, was old, dilapidated. I mean, to do sled work, I had to walk across the street to Whole Foods. I borrowed a shopping cart that I never returned because we cut the wheels off, we welded skis, like actual skis to it, and we're doing sled work there. Got videos. Think I'm lying. Got videos. Like we didn't have a pull-up bar, so we just welded a stationary pipe. The weight room was an old swim pavilion that we would just take the pool covering in the wintertime and we'd wrap it around and put space heaters in there, and that's how we did it, And over time I would put equipment and things like that, but like you have to have space and time, but like the greatest piece of weight equipment is the human body, and it's just how you impose the stimulus towards it, and it comes back to, okay, this is what we have, this is what we need to do, how do we get there? And I just gotta work with everybody involved.
Yeah. That's good. What would you what's your favorite? Do you have a favorite warm up stretch? A favorite, I don't know if you can summarize it in just a minute.
Yeah, what is it? 8-6-4-2. I mean, my favorite warm up is a warm up that is tried and true for performance, for health, for stroke. Like that's the Bob Bowman warm up. 8-6-4-2. 800 mixer, which you got some drilling in there. You got some snorkel work. You got some, then 600 of pull and 400 of kick, or vice versa. I mean, I haven't been with, but I mean, let's just look at it. Let's just look at it from just the basic level. Take the Michael out of it, and then add everybody else that Bob's coached. Okay, everybody else. He's coached a good or maybe more swimmers in his lifetime. 10-year-olds all the way up to the adults.
Oh yeah,
they're healthy. They perform well. With the exception of Chase, they got great stroke mechanics.
Yeah,
that's the premise of the warm up, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm a big let's keep the broomsticks in the janitor's closet, and let's a warm up should stimulate the central nervous system. A warm up should increase tissue temperature. A warm up should get the joints into the movements and then the levels that they're going of the impending activity. The impending activity isn't like you can swim the butterfly. You can swim any stroke like this. You might be okay in breaststroke, but odds are Andrew Wilson's going to be coming right past you.
Yeah.
But so if we need to warm up the shoulder joint and the scapula to do this, let's have them do that, because we talk so much. It's funny, like we talk out of both sides of our mouth as a sporting community. It's like, oh, we do all this garbage yards. They're always overtrained. But then we're going to spend 30 minutes of doing stuff that are so generally physical in their preparedness, meaning like a sideways jumping jack is still a sideways jumping jack. Like if you want to get their glenohumeral joint, their shoulder joint into a position, so like we were talking about, the beautiful Luca Orlando, I mean, he's got it. He's the only person. He must have watched a billion Michael videos growing up, right? Because he's got the low chin. He's got the great press. Like there's only one way to warm it up like that. And that's the skills and drills and the warm up in the water. So it's really like where I stand. And people are like, well, he's showing favoritism to Bob. Like, well, I don't know. Like you stand on deck with someone for 15 years and his athletes are healthy and they, for the most part, they stand up and they stand and deliver.
That's
right.
True.
And that's a warm up is to prevent injury. A warm up is to enhance the practice of the performance. Like, they meet all of my key performance indicators. They meet all of my checkbox. So I'm going to stick to that. In the weight room, again, if they just came from a 2-hour practice or an hour practice for that matter, or 32 minutes if they're training with Mike and Peter Andrews, like they better be warm if they're coming in. Let's just try and keep that warm up going. No, I'm not saying like if we're going to work at a bar intensity of 75 to 90% intensity, so 90% of their one repetition max in the bar, I'm not going to be like, let's just put it on and go. Like we have to build up to there. But I just think of like there's only like each. You're a perfect example. Most training cycles go 3 up, 1 down. Like right. It's like your Advent calendar, right? So like every 4 weeks you got to get a new Advent calendar out, right? So I don't want to get to December 10th or wherever we're at in the Advent calendar and like all of a sudden Jesus is supposed to be there, but he's not ready to come, right? So like think about that. Like make sure you've only got 4 candles to kind of burn through during your time. Like let's make it strategic and intentional.
Yeah, I love that. So I just want to close with some of your favorite things. What's your favorite little lightning round here? What's your favorite color?
Go blue.
Yeah. Favorite food, dessert, restaurant? Anything that you food wise you love?
Man, I'm a meatitarian. But that being said, like Ben and Jerry's does tend to slide into my DMs a little more frequently than I'd like to.
Favorite music you like to listen to?
Really, like you get into a weight room. It's whatever's going to make the group go, right? So I hear everything from, if Allison's in there, then it's going to be country, right?
Yeah.
Typically Eric Church. If some of these young cats are in there, it's probably going to be, Drake or some sort of hip hop. But, me personally, I actually listen to podcasts when I lift, so most people think, I should be like a heavy metal or just like the banging hip hop. But, I can, as long as it's kind of within reason, I can listen to just about anything. My man, Zach Harding, big 80s metal band, dude, like Iron Maiden, Megadeth. Right. Like, I can get down with that. At the end of the day, if that's going to make Zach Harding go, then I'm not going to be putting on something on the other side of the spectrum, right?
Oh, yeah. That's cool. I love that. Favorite city you've ever visited in your world travels?
That's a tough one. I think favorite cities I've been to that I'd like to go back to. Like, I'd love to go back to Rome. The only time I've been to Rome was during the World Championships 2009. You've been on those trips. At least I don't go to be a tourist. Like, I go to there to make sure I'm living up to my expectations.
Oh yeah, you guys are slaving. You don't get much tourist time. And
like, I don't need it. Like, USA Swimming has given me an opportunity to work with our athletes. I need to stay on it. Yeah. But I'd love to go back there, right? Like, I've just gotten older, right? And just to there's Italy as a whole. I mean, right? To go to Assisi to see where like St. Francis came, right? There's so much there.
Yep.
I've never been to Israel or Jerusalem. Would love to, if it was safe. Would love to go back there.
Yep.
And then it's just like a 10-way tie, right? Like, Ireland's because I'm Irish. Everything about Australia is great because you'll appreciate this. I went back to Sydney. Man, it's crazy. It's 2018. It seems so long ago. But I was over there speaking at a performance clinic, and I'd never been to the Sydney Aquatic Center. And, man, I walk in there, and I have the Team USA, like just my USA swimming collared shirt. I love to represent the brand. Like, when I'm presenting at a sports performance, like, this is the greatest team ever. It's Team USA Swimming. Like,
oh, yeah.
Everybody wants, I'm a Detroit guy. No one wants Detroit clothing. But, like, everybody wants Tampa Bay Buccaneer stuff right now. Like, I get to represent the greatest badge in sports. And I walk into the Sydney Aquatic Center, and the person working at the desk was like, "You're Michael Phelps' guy, right?" And I was like, "Man, I can go to the Cana Natatorium now," and they'll be like, they'll be like, "Do you belong here?" It's like, yeah, well, my name's up there now, like, because I represent. And like, man, the Sydney Aquatic Center to kind of take that in, and because you were there, Josh, right? So I shouldn't speak on something that I can't fully articulate how special it is. But I remember getting back from it and telling Lindsay that story and being like, "Tell me about." I mean, that's kind of where USA Swimming for another 76 games was just unbelievable, right? We won like every medal we could possibly win, and then the Aussies were kind of gaining on us, and that was kind of like, Dolan's like, "Hey, like, this is team," and just to go there, and then Sydney's, people in Australia are just great human beings. The whole world is full of great human beings, but there's probably a whole another long line of places that I'd like to go. I mean, been to France a couple times. It'd be great to go back. Great to go back to Paris with Yannick. Yannick for 2 years.
Just go around with Yannick.
Yeah. Obviously, to go back to the middle, to go back to Turkey, to go to Ephesus and see where St. Paul, when you think of put it into context, right? Like, we just know of who he is, but what he did, how he did it, context, floated in a dinghy over there, and then if you know the backstory of Ephesus, this is I'm amongst something that I never can comprehend again. Russia was great. I've never been to St. Petersburg, but Moscow was probably not so good. But there's places that I would like to go back to. We just got to make sure it's safe in a couple years. So, yeah.
Well, your tops is almost the same as mine because I loved Australia because they're great people, a lot of fun, and it's fun that we're more famous as swimmer people there than we are here.
Hilarious. It's unbelievable, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a hoot. And my family's Irish, so I haven't been to Ireland yet. So maybe we need to do a little clinic coaching thing in Ireland together.
Hey,
that's what we got to do.
I'll tell you a quick story, Josh, if we have time about that right on there. So two summers ago, it was the summer 2019, man. Things seem so long ago. But Tim Hinchy is just phenomenal, like for our sport, right? Like when you talk about like everything that he is really trying to bring forth. I mean, people talk about what lessons did you learn working with Michael? It's like, here's someone that tried to change the sport, went against adversity, was told every step of the way you're doing it the wrong way. Bob's not the coach to get you there. Michigan's not the place to go there, and he overcame. Like I feel like that's the same thing at USA Swimming. Like we're already the greatest NGB, but he's just trying to change it and making it better. Like the things that he's like putting into place by hiring like phenomenal people in the safe sport things to clean up that aspect. But anyways, like the mental health, right? He heard it loud and clear. Like this is important. Our two of our biggest faces of our sport are talking about this is important. Yeah. Well, he collaborated with this group over in Ireland to do this open water swim in the river. And like, hey, just look at a map for your listeners. Like Ireland's north. So even though this was July, it was not a warm water open water swim. But it was to bring suicide awareness. Now, because of timing, he knew it wasn't right to bring over any of our active swimmers because they were getting ready for Budapest, Guadalajara, and then Naples, right? Right. So what does he do? At the time on the board was Davis Tarwater, man of Michigan, and if you're gonna get one, then you got to get the other. Get PPK to go over there, and they did. They spoke to a local swim group about the impact of swimming, how swimming could be good for your mental health, and then he got those two old coots jump in the water with him and do that 10K. I at least got to use the coaching, so I didn't have to jump in there. I followed on the lead. But yeah, to your point, like that's the benefit of our sport is because everybody gets it, and so like if we travel to another country, we can really help, right? Yeah, and enjoy that.
And then we got to hit Israel because I haven't been there either. And then Italy's my favorite. I've been there a few times now, and it's my favorite. Just the food, the language, the history. I just love it. So anyway, so we got lots of travels to do in the future. Well, give us just one in closing, just a little encouragement to any sports trainers, coaches, athletes to pivot off this Corona and get ready for the summer, the Olympic summer in a strong way.
Yeah, absolutely. It's what I've been saying since we got shut down. We've all been dealt a terrible. Basically, we've been sitting in a casino for almost a year now with losing hands being dealt to us, but we keep coming back to the table. Bad analogy. I got to think of a different one. But at any rate, hey, swimming's going to return. It's already returned. Think about how safely we've done it. If your listeners haven't already watched and viewed last week's presentation by the Aquatic Coalition, Shayna Ferguson from USA Swimming, Ryan Murphy, and then Tara Kirksell. People remember her name. She now works for Johns Hopkins in infectious disease. And then someone from the CDC really talked about how swimming can return in a safe and appropriate manner. And we're seeing it, right? USA Swimming has hosted Pro Swim Series meets. We're going to have the SEC Championship in Athens and in Missouri. We're going to have the ACC Championship in Greensboro. We're going to have the Pac-12 Championship in Houston.
Right.
The Big Ten's going to happen somewhere. Maybe it's going to happen in Nebraska. Who knows? Like, it's going to happen. And it's going to be happening in a safe manner. For club swimming, I know it's really tough because it's state and local mandates. I wish there was something we could do better, but we have swimming's just not going to overtake public health, right?
Right.
No matter how many times if we could get a personal appearance with Governor Newsom, I don't think we're going to change his opinion because he's got a large state to keep healthy. But it's going to happen. And so keep that in mind that swimming is still a great sport. The people involved in the sport are great. When it comes to mapping out how to do it in a safe and health at the forefront, we've got the best physicians working for us. Mm-hmm. They're involved with their team physicians for the Los Angeles Lakers. They're pretty good at the sporting too, right? And they've done it in health. They're with the New York Football Giants. They're all throughout the country, and it's not like they're gonna look at aspiring to get a gold medal over someone's health. And so we're trying to do this in the best way possible. Yeah. And Omaha is going to look a whole heck of a lot different than it's always looked. And Tokyo is going to look different than all the other Olympics. But as we keep to get slower and slower, just think about it. I think about when people were asking, who did you want to win on the Super Bowl? I was just glad that in April I was told sports won't happen again. And we did NFL did an NFL season start to finish with the Super Bowl. Swimming's going to be the same way. So whether you're a 10-year-old that's just getting into the sport, stay in the sport. It's a great sport. It's going to carry you for life. Or I don't need to really, maybe I do, but I don't think I really need to tell Katie Ledecky, like, stay in the sport. It's going to work out in your favor. But and everybody in between. And work together. Have patience. Everybody understands, like, we wish we could do 55 heats of every event, have the stands packed. But we got to do this in an intelligent and a healthy, appropriate manner. But look, we're going to be sitting here next year at this time, Josh, you and I will hop back on a follow-up podcast. We're going to be talking about going to a packed capacity, probably Des Moines, one of the standard winter pro swim series. Yeah. You're going to be talking about your child swimming in their second or third SEC championships. Missouri's going to be going for a win, win the team title, all these things, like, because we got there and we stuck together as a community.
I love it. Well, thank you for keeping the swimmers healthy on a national level and specifically for the USA team. These ultimate swimmers that you get to help and encourage go on to make history. And it's pretty cool to say that you were a part of that history, these last Olympiads. And thank you for all you do for Team USA and for helping guide ultimate swimmers. And I can't wait to see you on a deck soon, my friend.
Yeah, absolutely, Josh.
I want to take a moment to tell you about my favorite swim cap, the Hammerhead swim cap. It's the safest, fastest, longest lasting, most comfortable swim cap in the world. Its one-of-a-kind patented honeycomb shock-absorbing technology will prevent concussions. And the Hammerhead cap has no wrinkles to ensure top speed with the least resistance. And it's super comfortable. That's easy to get on and easy to get off, and it will never tear. This is the last cap you will ever need to buy. Safety and speed, all at hammerheadswimcaps.com.
Thank you for joining us on this Ultimate Swimmer podcast. We hope you enjoyed hearing from these Olympians and life champions and how certain habits and decisions help them on their journey, and they can help you too. If there is an ultimate swimmer from your team that you would like to nominate that we can recognize on our show, just email me at josh@joshdavis.com. That's josh@joshdavis.com. And tell us about how your ultimate swimmer is making a difference in your swimming community. And that's the goal, to make a difference and swim with purpose. Not only are you getting better, but you're helping those around you get better too. When you realize you were born for the water, born for greatness, and born to serve others, you are on your way to becoming an ultimate swimmer. I'm Josh Davis. Until next time, keep streamlining and keep smiling. See you around the pool soon.